Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to Oxygen Not Included. This is the Megabase Challenge, and tonight we've got a couple of things that I'm going to be working on that I don't think I've ever done before. And that is, we're actually going to take some hatches and we're going to make a little bit of a hatchery out of my base here. Not only are we going to deal with some hatches, but there's a puffed over here that looks like it could use a little puffed corral. And then last but not least, we're going to capture ourselves a little slickster down here and then put them in the little carbon dioxide box over here so that they can start to convert that to oil. There we go. So we're going to be trying to catch all of these little animals and putting them in places where they should belong and become very useful, and that will add something to the base. And I've never really done this before with all these little animals. And we've done experiments with them, but we've never actually used them in a base. So that'll be pretty cool. The other thing that I have going on here that I've been planning out for a little while, based on your guys' comments and all of this good stuff, is I'm going to be doing a lot more mining, digging up a lot of the map here because that's going to be really useful. The other thing is there's been a fair amount of requests for diamond and putting diamond shift plates inside of these mechanized airlock. The other thing that I got going on here inside the base is a lot of mining. Now that's for two reasons. One, I'm going to need a lot of things like iron ore, gold amalgam, all of that stuff so I can refine it and really make some sweet stuff inside the base as we use metal tiles to kind of bring up the decor and also work on the paths, which I'll talk about a little bit more here in a minute. But the other thing is, a lot of people were commenting along here with like Sean Bradshaw and everybody else was saying, I recommend using the diamond for the thermal shift plates. Now, I've used this in the experiments a little bit. They do have a pretty high thermal capacity, but they have an amazingly high thermal conductivity. And we can use those inside of that area over here where I was talking about our polymer press, because we're going to be making lots and lots of plastic, which gets back into the point of the path that we're working on right here. So over here we have the plastic ladder, and then we have the fire pole right next to it. Now there's been some comments of saying that they would only take the fire pole if they're pathing from the right straight on down, and then that brings up some ideas. What if you have a fire pole on both sides and then a plastic ladder right in the middle? Do they always take the fire pole down, or how does this actually work out? This has been kind of a tricky thing, and that some people have been messing with to get working correctly. So I'm going to do a little bit of investigating here, but the big part is converting a lot of my ladders here in the high traffic areas into plastic so that my duplicants are moving faster around the base. We can also convert some of these tiles now into like plastic tiles or the metal tiles to increase movement speed. So all of this is all going to work better to make the base much more efficient, and it'll look better. You know, we'll start to clean things up. We've been focusing on the equipment quite a bit lately, so now this is the other half of it, right? Trying to make the base work and function well for the duplicants, not just for the equipment. So the thing about the ladders was actually from right here, Leaf Green Beast. Remember, keep firemen poles to the inside or nearer to the door that they are leaving from, so that the first thing that they see is that ladder, and then they'll take the they take the fire pole, and then they'll take the ladder back up. So what he's doing here, at least what Leaf Green is saying, is that they usually just puts the ladder right next to that door, whatever direction that they're going to be coming from, so that that's the first thing that they hit right there. So let's go ahead and take a look at seeing what's happening here. You can see that the fire pole is over here on the right, and if Frankenmeep now has a new task to go back down, you can see that he took the fire pole down as his priority because he's coming from the right. So let's go ahead and try to do this number. We're going to give some directions to just Mima here. So Mima's going to move over here from the right side down to the left, and you can see that they took the fire pole down. So after moving Mima to the top here, let's go ahead and navigate her from the top left down to the right and see what happens here. Well, in this case, Mima took the fire pole down, so it isn't just from the direction that they're coming from. That might have to do with where you know, the fact that this is on the same level right here. Or it could potentially be that there's been some updates to the game since the point of the upgrade that have made this more efficient. I think I did see that in the patch notes. What if I send Mima over here? Okay, so now she's like mid-level, but now she's going to go from here down, so she would have to jump across the ladder. Nope. takes that fire pole directly. So it looks like just putting a fire pole next to the plastic ladder. In this situation, they use the fire pole to go down and the plastic ladder to come back up. Alright, so I have several hatches available here on the map. We got one that's kind of trapped right there. Here's another one in our little, like, what is this place? That's not it. There we have it. It's in our med bay. It's probably not the best place for a hatch. And then we've got another one right there and another one right there. So I'm going to go ahead and take these, and I'm going to put the little, like, hatch corral, or the hatchery, right down here. And I want to set it up so that it's just kind of like it was in the animation, to where I use a door to drop the ore down on top of the hatches, because I think it's fancy. Now this should be really, really simple. So I'm just going to build a couple of tiles, at least 3 high, so that the hatches cannot jump out. We'll give them a little bit of space so that it isn't like completely awkward for them. And then I'll just use a mechanized door right here. Perfect. And on top of that, you know, for the sake of it, let's go ahead and just build, why not, 2 storage compactors. Not that you really need 2 at all. Actually, let's just cancel 1. Then I'll use automation. I'll put the signal right next to it. Oh, you know what we can do? We can add a little weight plate. So once that turns to coal, once we have a certain amount of coal, we can then open this up and, like, cycle some more down. That way we don't have to manually control this. And then, oh, buddy, here we go. Then the storage compactor right here, next to it, can have my coal. So there we have it. We have ore in, and then you kind of just dump the ore down or whatever, and then ore out. I mean, you're still going to have to manually control, you know, the dumping out of the storage compactors until they come up with a machine or something like that that you can use to actually automate the dumping of that, which would be cool. Good idea. Think about it. You know, Clay Entertainment, that might be a good one. Alright, so here we go. A little weight plate. Boom, just like so. I'm going to go ahead and make this 1 taller. Reason being is because somewhere down here, whatever the drop-off point for that hatch thing, I think it's a little bit taller. What tab is it under? Ah! It's under... Why is this under food? Oh, well, I guess it is. Yeah, see, the creature relocator is 3 tall, so that... I put it in the wrong spot. Okay, so if I put this storage compactor right here, boom, you should be able to get to it real quick. And then the other one right there, because that's going to drop the stuff down. Okay, so I'm going to store fertilizer inside of here because, you know, as we can tell right now, what we have is we have a lot of fertilizer from all of the synthesizers that we have down here. That makes power, also gives off coal, carbon dioxide. Carbon dioxide eventually turns into polluted water turns into more fertilizer, blah, 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 blah. Circle of life. Therefore, it's an easy thing to put right there, and it makes sense. So let's go ahead and, you know, capture a couple of these little dudes. We'll get rid of that med bay. Here we go. Little creature trap right here, another one right there. Oh man, that dude ate the med bay. What a hungry hatch. Ah, we even have another one over here. I have so many hatches. There's another one. All right, we got ourselves a little hatch. Look at all the hatches we have. This door's gonna go nuts. Okay, so only if this is above more. Okay, there we go. Okay, now what takes slime? Ah, see, these dust caps, they take slime. So what I really would like to have is a quicker access to polluted oxygen and all of the slime that's created by this puffed. If I can get that nearby, then that would be really useful. So I would really like to have this puffed somewhere over here inside of its own isolated chamber so that, you know, polluted oxygen can kind of just build up inside of there, and then I can harvest slime off of it. Speaking of which, they are going up the ladder and maybe down the fire pole. Nope, nope, I don't see anybody. Somebody come over this way. Okay, here goes Bubbles. What if Bubbles wanted to move over here? Well, clearly you're going to use that. Oh, there's your win again to even go down even further. So it looks like just putting a fire pole right next to the ladder, at least in my game, seems to work out just fine. So that's super sweet. What that means is I can deconstruct most of this building. Let's just start with the top bit, so I don't run out of plastic. And we'll convert that all over to plastic. One of the other things that I've done here is I've stopped pumping more and more hydrogen into this area. So there's quite a bit inside of here, but it's not like it's too much. So up here at the top, you can see it's 7.7 degrees Celsius. Down here on the bottom, it's 14 degrees Celsius at 7 kilograms, and then we have 8.9. Now, the reason that I stopped doing that was based on a comment. So let me go ahead and find that one. So Yako was talking about this, and it says, I'm not really sure that more hydrogen in the loop is always better. Yeah, you have more thermal mass, therefore, you can store up more cold essentially and kind of move it around. The thing that he was talking about here is that it seems like if you have too much hydrogen, it might slow the flow of that hydrogen clockwise, therefore making one side quite a bit colder than the other side, potentially causing some problems with freezing. So the other thing that he was using here is petroleum instead of oil to prevent freezing. Now, what was the lowest temperature of petroleum? Negative 57.1 degrees Celsius. Now, a Wii's work could still potentially freeze that, but that's right down there near its lowest temperature. So it's a good chance that it won't ever get that low. Whereas crude oil will freeze at negative 40. So there's a little bit more tolerance using petroleum. So that's a good recommendation there. And if we take a look at the temperature overlay, well, one of the other things that was mentioned is that this ladder just looks totally weird inside of here. So I might get rid of that. At least I said I was going to get rid of it. This is 14 degrees Celsius on this side and 4 on that. So that is a fairly big difference. And that might be a larger difference because there's more hydrogen and therefore it's moving around slower. So let's go ahead and do this number. We're going to go ahead and build this ladder right here. And then I'll go in and just deconstruct this so it just doesn't look as weird, The other thing I can do is I can add the diamond thermal shift plates inside of here just for the sake of it. And because, diamonds are good. Not only that, I think the diamond, look at how hot that is. 163 degrees Celsius. Let's see what happens when I build a diamond thermal shift plate inside of here. We're going to deconstruct this spot, and then we're going to try to make some thermal shift plates. These are 800 each. Whew. Make this a very nice high priority. I'm going to go ahead and put it right here just to see what happens in this spot. Right there. And then I'll build one in that corner as well, and then right down here. Just to get some sort of crazy observation, see what happens sort of thing. So since it's only one little hole and the hydrogen is actually lighter, we're really not venting out much hydrogen or pretty much any hydrogen at this point. It's kind of just like struggling to figure out what to do in this spot. But let's check out this thermal overlay once these things get built. I'm guessing since the ore that was put in here is incredibly hot already, that it might suddenly warm things up. And yeah, it did a little bit there. Not a huge amount though. What I'd really want to do is build one of these thermal shift plates on the other side of this. That is going to remove my vacuum, let in a little bit of hydrogen. But I think that vacuum will go away anyhow if I ever end up filling this place up, because what will happen is that liquid will come up and it'll crush away any of the hydrogen that's in that space. And I don't think that'll be a bad thing to have a little hydrogen in there anyhow. I think that would actually be beneficial. So I'm going to go ahead and deconstruct the top chunk of that plastic, and it's going to drop in. But I should be able to sweep that up anyhow. Let's see what happens thermally when that drops in. Nothing really. Did get a little hydrogen out. And now that it's leaking, I might actually have to react. You know, I suppose one thing about this is that I really don't even need plastic right here. I can just leave that open. You know, if I build up enough crude oil to go above it, well then, at least it doesn't destroy stuff. Alright, so when I get more diamond, I'll go ahead and mess around with this. But for now, yeah, there's some fun stuff we can do with that. Let's stay focused though. So, I've got some hatches down here. Let's go ahead and disable this building. Actually, I do not have. So one thing that would be really cool about these storage compactors is if we just had an automation switch on it that would allow it to dump. So right now I could just uncheck it and then recheck it for, you know, fertilizer. Just make it 5 or whatever. And then I could just say below, which is still automated, but whatever. Deal with it. And at this point, they won't put any more in until that turns into coal. I'm not really sure this whole weight plate thing has really any practical use. Well, I don't know. Maybe. Maybe not. If this is set high, it's not like they're going to pick it up and drop it back in there because it's missing a foundation. Oh, never mind. I guess you can fill a storage compactor even if it is missing a foundation. Okay. That works. Okay, so the weight plate thing, I don't think has any real use at all, but it does look like the animation, so that's cool. Moving on to the next thing that I want to do here. Alright, so moving on to the puffed corral, I'm going to dig this area out over here on the left, and then I'll close it up, and we'll bring that puffed over and get things started. I also have a morb down here, so I can grab that morb, throw it up here, you know, and make that work. Alright, so there we go. I've got myself a little bottle emptier. And what I can bring over here is naphtha. Because that's going to be the trick. I don't want the polluted oxygen getting back out of here and bringing germs into my base. That would be bad. So we're going to use a little bit of a naphtha lock there in order to keep that sealed. Inside of this storage compactor, I'm going to put slime. Therefore, everything could just kind of move right on over there and be available nice and close by for the dust caps over here on the right. Okay, so one of the things I need to do here, because you can see that this is just not really working out right here, is that I need to avoid this morb coming over here and trying to push some of this naphtha off or getting stuck inside of this naphtha, because that's just not good. So I really need to block this little guy over here on the left so he can't go anywhere else. Now I just gotta time it right so that this morb is over here on the left when I go to build this. Now, bubbles, just keep moving. Come on. Ha! Nailed it. Last thing I want to do is make a little pneumatic door up here. That'll keep the puffed on the left side. I'd also probably want to get rid of some of the oxygen that's in this area too. It's just not, it's too much. Oh, this is interesting. I have to use slime inside of here to attract a puffed. Come on, puffed. You're right there. Look at how chill all of this is. Yeah, that might be working. I don't know. Let's throw the thermal shift plates inside of here and see what happens. We'll start down here with just one, just in case it's like super hot and ends up melting my polymer press, because that would be bad. But you know what? That didn't really do anything there, so that's good. So let's go ahead and dig into this area over here, because look at all of that diamond. Boom. Okay, one easy way that I can get a lot more naphtha is if I just store it down here somewhere. And then, you know, store my plastic and that'll just melt. So that'll be super easy. So we'll just build that right there and then I'll throw some plastic in there. And boom, I'll have enough in order to make this lock up here. Alright, so clearly I'm going to have to try a different puffed. This one is, well, it's just too productive. So we'll move on to one that's right down over here that's pretty much in a vacuum. Go ahead and do this number right there. Boom. And then we'll set that up and that'll work just fine, hopefully. Okay, so if I store plastic over here and I just say nice high priority. No! No! The puff is running away! Oh man, it's gonna float all the way up here. What? Are you kidding me? All of this plastic and its temperature isn't changing? What a productive team. They all know what to do. Okay, so while you're at it, let's dig over here and we'll get to this little slickster. Boom! Yeah, yeah. And then for food, we're just gonna put another one of these, since all my plastic has not melted at all. Probably because it just has too much thermal mass, essentially, or specific heat capacity at this point. Then there's like 2,000 kilograms worth of it. No, where are you going, Slickster? Come back! Oh, carbon dioxide everywhere. Oh, oh. Boom. Get wrecked. And check that out. That was one pole inside of there, and it captured 1,950 grams. Interesting that that came out in a bottle. That's kind of cool. I don't know why I thought that this would actually bring a puffed over there. I don't know. Now, as so many of you guys were talking about the clapper from my last video right here, I've continued to develop it a little bit, kind of refining how I seat everything inside of here. And let me check this out. Boom. Millimeter perfect. It's like just absolutely flush this time. You know, there's a recommendation to use a magnet that was actually attracting over on this side so that when it comes down, it stays down. Been working on my 3D printer a little bit. Put a couple extra belt tensioners on it today so that the belt is quite a bit tighter. And I mean, the 3D print just came out super smooth. This is fresh off the printer. Actually really improved the text quite a bit, which I don't think you guys can see because it's all white, but a fair bit sharper than it was on the last one. Also just adjusted a lot of the little millimeters on everything. You know, clearances so that the bolt just fits inside there just perfect, as opposed to last time where it was a little bit tight. I kind of just had to wiggle it a bunch of times to get it to work. I like it. Okay, now build the creature trap already. You know you can do it. Alright, let's drop off the slickster over here. That'll be nice. They only pick up 1 kilogram of plastic. Okay, so there we go. Got that slickster up and running. And it looks like, since that slickster doesn't have anywhere to go left or right, that's just sitting there like constantly sucking in more and more carbon dioxide, as opposed to what we saw where it was running back and forth and kind of running a little bit slower. So this looks to be a very efficient way to, you know, put a slickster to work. You see just how many kilograms of carbon dioxide this little dude's consuming. Quite a bit. Look at that. We're already up to 30 kilograms and just started. At some point it drops oil, right? 55 kilograms? Oh, man. Just keeps going. Dude, what is up with this creature trap? It's like messed up. Is there like a big pile of naphtha somewhere around here? Hello. Okay, well, found a way to make naphtha. They're actually just moving through this oil, and it's melting by the time they get through it, so they actually cannot transfer enough plastic over there, because it ended up with 1 kilogram, and 1 kilogram is not enough to make it from like wherever they are to where they need to go thermally. That's just funny. There's just like, all right. So my plan slightly worked. See, look, 1 kilogram, and now Bubbles no longer has an item. So somewhere in here is some naphtha. There it is. Okay. I don't know, but it'll definitely go right here if I build that. Maybe. Oh, tricky dude trying to get him. Well, I found another way to trap a puffed. Why does the game like always do weird stuff on me? It never just works normal. Alright, get out of here. Like this puffed is moving right across the trap. It's Suppose you just have to lure them into where you want them to go. You can't actually trap a puft. Well, I tried. Oh. Yeah. It's happening. It's happening. Okay. Disable that. Disable that. Boom! What up? Puffed in the right spot. Boom. Let's close this auto. Alright, so that is all of my little creatures here. Captured and where they need to be. Doing what they do best. Look at all that coal. How awesome is that? Sweet. Got a bunch of fertilizer up in here. And this pressure plate. It's just making that impossible. I don't really think that's a good idea, so we're gonna have to get rid of that, but it was fun for a little while. So the hatchery's up and running. This kind of needs to be purged of oxygen, and we also got to get enough naphtha in here to kind of make sure that that stays the way it needs to be. So what I really need is more plastic right now. So we got to get back to making some more plastic, which means this thing needs to be enabled. And then Frankenmeep's going to jump on that oil refinery. We'll make some more plastic, and then we'll see if the diamond thermal shift plates up here are effective or not. Another thing that I might want to do is maybe take this pump and move it up higher. There was a comment talking about that, so that it cleans out this oxygen. Right now it's really not hurting anybody. It does allow for anybody that's running in this area to kind of just go through there. I don't know. Right now it's at 2.5 kilograms. There could be some work done in that to make this a little bit better. Alright, so we can see the system up and running now. It looks like we got about 65 degrees Celsius up here at the top. Let's see what I can see. We'll go to this tile right here, right? The hydrogen is 62.9 right there. And then the hydrogen in that area is 63.8. So it seems like it's a fair bit closer now that we have those diamond plates, you know, kind of helping to transfer that stuff. But it doesn't look like it's transferring from the pipes any faster, which kind of brings me back to that same sort of idea, though, that the bottleneck, I think, here is the crude oil itself. It's just thermally not very conductive as compared to everything else we're dealing with. However, this entire chamber, once it finally gets out of there, it's actually, you know, transferring around and keeping quite even this entire area. So the diamond does have an effect. If nothing else, it makes it quite fancy. But we can see the polymer press up here, which is 66 degrees. And then that one's 60. So it's the heat is, well, I don't know. It's kind of hard to say. The liquid's there. I don't know. Over here on the right, though, the crude oil is really maintaining a temperature that's pretty close to what the hydrogen is in this area as well. So this is about 3 degrees right here. The hydrogen is about 6 degrees. I think opening this up was the right idea so that there's no more like vacuum and the thermal energy cannot go across the vacuum. Right now, everything's within a couple degrees of each other. Well, I mean, I guess we got what? That's negative 0.9 up to 5.8. So it's not a huge difference, but it is a difference. Potentially adding more shift plates here would average this out a little bit more. I'm not sure it's really all that necessary, though. Ultimately, what I'm seeing here is that this system is running stable at 66 degrees Celsius now. So it's not overheating. We're also not building up too much carbon dioxide. So this could become like a really useful thing if I actually just wanted to pump carbon dioxide somewhere else. One area that I have a lot of carbon dioxide is an area that's been like neglected for a long time. This area up here. Look at that, 20 kilograms of carbon dioxide in this area alone. Reason being is that this carbon skimmer cannot get rid of its polluted water at the current moment, simply because this was so backed up. And so I'm still trying to process down this polluted water so that this thing can start running again. So right now this is kind of like just waiting to become polluted water and eventually to become fertilizer and power at this point. So that's why I really haven't cleaned this up at all. But this is a potential area where I could, you know, turn this into oil if I really wanted to. I think my plan for this area over here, and you've seen I've already canceled a lot of the building. I'm gonna build something different over here. This, you know, we already have one of these setups down lower. It made a lot more sense to make it down there. So I'm just gonna clean this up with the natural gas generators, run it off this geyser, make this area work a lot better. But the main thing is that I'm gonna draw a lot of my power. I'm gonna try to rework the power system a little bit so that I pull off of this main, you know, conduit line, and then I'll branch out to some of the other equipment as needed. It seems like the next thing I should focus on now is a plastic cooker so that I can melt it down and start to use it for, you know, insulating different areas. So this area is one spot that could use a nice little liquid lock, like we kind of have, you know, potentially trying to go on right here, although I got to work on that a little bit to make it, you know, function better. And, you know, over here as well, that's a good spot, because we just got all this polluted oxygen that's, you know, now been in this area. And that's no good. Alright, well there you have it, guys. Hopefully you have enjoyed this little episode here of Oxygen Not Included. I think it was pretty successful. We trapped all the different animals that we were looking for here and put them in their own little areas for them to do their stuff. Now we could improve on that a little bit, but that'll be in the next episode. Also made some ladders here, so we were able to explore the whole fire pole next to the ladder thing. This is really helping to move my duplicants around quite a bit faster. So continue to work on that, but I think next thing is to, you know, get these tiles moving a little bit quicker. So I'm looking forward to that. There's a lot of other things that we can also do. We can also kind of make an electrolyzer thing where we're going to turn a lot of water into a power plant sort of thing. And working on the electricity in the base as a whole, I think that's another good topic. Oh, not to mention the plastic furnace. Oh, so many good things. Anyhow, thank you guys for watching. Hopefully you have enjoyed this little episode of Oxygen Not Included. If I've earned your subscription, then thank you so much for that. Have a great day, guys. Stay awesome. Peace. Brothgar out.